This one was a viewer request, the TCL 30XE 5G. Interesting device. We're going to look at it from two different perspectives. Of course, right now, T-Mobile, I don't know what the Metro PCS deal is, but T-Mobile right now with a new line, you could pick up one of these for free. You know, of course, you got to have the 24 months and all the rest of it. But if you're looking at it from that standpoint, personally, I would go with the Nord N20 5G, which is also free. But if you're making a monthly payment, if you're watching this at a time where you're paying full boat, whatever it happens to be, then that's a significant conversation to have, because the N20 5G comes in at $282, whereas this one, full price, comes in at $198. Let's go over design. It's a little last week, but that never hurt anybody. You got the fingerprint sensor on the rear. It's a touch finicky. I put my both fingerprints in a couple different times. Most times it works just fine. It's perfectly snappy. There's a couple times it'll give you a vibration, which a vibration on this fingerprint sensor means that you've done something, it didn't actuate, something went wrong there. You also get, there it goes, did it again. You also get the teardrop notch, which isn't the end of the world either. Headphone jack, which is quite nice because the speaker isn't the best. 3 sensors, technically it's 2 because you got depth and macro in there, so really only 1. We'll go over the camera in the full review. The images aren't bad. You could see some of the previews of that on the Stevelicious Tech Instagram. I posted some photos from this. You can see the link for that in the description. You got the mono-firing speaker, which you can block quite easily, but then again, there's a headphone jack for that. USB-C charging, which gets reasonably fast. I think it's 15 or 18 watts. 18 watts. Call it fast charging with a 45 milliamp hour, 100 milliamp hour battery, which we'll talk about in a moment as well. Powering it, you're talking a Dimensity 700, which is actually one of the highlights of this so far. The performance isn't bad. Screen, everyone talks about the 90 hertz on the display, but it's a 720p panel. And something about the 90 hertz on the display bothers me when we look at the rest of the specs for the phone. 4 gigs of RAM, 64 megs of storage, but you can supplement that. It does have a micro SD card slot, Bluetooth 5.1, so you get some of the advanced features there to go with your headphone jack. So, not Gorilla Glass, it's something called Dragon Trail Glass, which I don't know quite what that is, but a few days, close to a week of using it, haven't experienced any scratches. Plastic construction all over the place, but that's not bad. Decent heft to it, decent weight. Doesn't feel overly cheap, which is good. That's one of the things you got to remember. You know, we're talking sub $200 really here at the end of the day when you're talking about full price, which there is considerations to be made there. When you're talking about a sub $200 device, you're not going to get everything. But that's when the 90 hertz display comes into play and starts to bother me. 90 hertz is nice. A lot of times the display is quite smooth and nice to use, but there are times in certain apps that the processor doesn't quite push the full 90 hertz. It doesn't quite take advantage of it because some of the performance things get a little choppy. So what did I give up for that 90 hertz? What was it there that I sacrificed that they couldn't include in the phone to include something that's a consumer-facing, advertising-friendly feature in the 90 hertz? Did I give up a full 1080p display? Did I give up an extra 2 gigs of RAM? Did I give up 128 gigs of storage? Did I give up Gorilla Glass 3 or 5 on this device to have 90 hertz? That's where, like when we talk about a lot of the Moto devices that kind of seem bare bones and they just are bringing their hard hat and lunch pail to work every day, that have a lot of no frills, that's what concerns me about this. So this is a phone that included one of those features, but we're lacking in other areas that I understand you don't expect a lot from a sub $200 device, and having 90 hertz is nice, but if they could have maximized the efficiency of the build, the cost of the build of the device, and we'd sacrificed 90 hertz, perhaps we would have picked up another one of those features that really would help the performance and durability of the device. That being said, the performance from the Dimensity 700 I was actually quite pleased by. The games are going to run okay. Pokemon Go runs okay. TCL UI 3.0, even though this is only running on the January security patches I was curious about, came out in March, this device. Been around for a bit. You'd figure out a brand new device they'd support, but it's still running the January security patch of TCL UI 3.0. It's my first experience with TCL UI. Well, it's somewhat clean. You get some features to it. It's not bad. It doesn't hinder the use of the device whatsoever. It's nice. The LCD, even though we said 720p, it's a decent LCD. It has good color. It gets reasonably bright. It's not one of those ones that you're going to be counting pixels or you're going to rue the day that you decided to go with something like this. So it's 720p, and yeah, that's not as sharp as some people would like, but then again, sub $200, right? Paying $4 a month for something like this. So it's not roughly, what, $7, I think, something like this. So it's not one that you scream and rave about it not having 1080p, especially when it is a rather quality panel with gets decent brightness and good color. But Twitter, Instagram, everything runs quite well. I had one hiccup with Twitter that was odd, where it actually stopped working for a second, where it was doing something where it was not, it had it where the app would crash and I actually had to reinstall it. But once I did that, there wasn't really any issue there. I didn't have any issue whatsoever. It's been pretty smooth operating since then for a few days after that. But Instagram runs well. No problem with Pokemon Go, Discord, WhatsApp, email, things like that. And when you're talking about a $200 device, that's really what you want to hone in on. How well does it do the basics? Call quality was good. Texting was good. Typing on it was good. I will tell you, turn off those haptics. Turn them off. They're the ones that will numb your finger. Your nerve endings in your fingertips will actually scream out to your brain, crying and begging for you to turn off the haptics in this device. But you know what? That's okay. It's $200. Turn off the haptics. You could type just fine. But as far as everything else that you'd want to do, web browsing, Reddit, communicating with friends on WhatsApp, taking decent photos. And we'll talk about that. Like I said, I want to put the camera through its paces in low light and video and all the rest of it for the full review. But you could see those Instagram photos that I had put up. Relatively good color. Gets a little punchy, gets a little saturated. But you know what? I'd rather err on the side of saturation than a lot of these camera systems that just make it so dull and the photo look like not something. We don't take photos sometimes to capture reality, as odd as that sounds, because the reality, when you factor in lighting and all the rest of it, can look quite drab. You take photos, kind of punch it up a little bit. So the reality around you that you remember is a little bit more colorful. So I like the fact that it does that. Like I said, the design's a little last week, but that never hurt anybody. And the camera sensor's okay. And the display is good. And the 90 hertz, when it works, when the Dimensity 700 is able to push the 90 hertz, it's smooth. The one downfall that I've seen of this one, I don't know if it's a Dimensity issue, if it's the fact that it's pushing the 90 hertz or it's trying to, battery life. For that 4,500 milliamp hour battery, I would expect much better battery life than this. I struggle to get 4 hours. That's why I wanted to give this one a bit longer review. We're not going to do just a straight week. This one might be 2 weeks because I want to figure that out as to why that is. Is it a TCL UI issue? Is it a Dimensity 700 issue? Is it the fact that I can't imagine a 720 LCD even pushing 90 hertz would chew that much battery. So maybe it's the 5G. Is it a 5G issue? The 5G modem and the chip and the Dimensity not quite work quite right? Is it not power efficient? I'll turn off 5G since T-Mobile makes that quite easy and get back to you on that, whether that helps battery life at all. But I was severely disappointed so far with my battery life on the TCL 30XE. Aside from that, if we could figure out the battery life thing, and if you're in a position where the free promotion is over and you can't get something like a Nord or an A53 5G cheap, this is a great budget option. Nice little performer, does well. I didn't even notice really the 4 gigs of RAM. It didn't really stop me up that much. Still running Android 11, so I don't know about the RAM Plus or ability to kind of use some sort of virtual memory storage. But Android 11 running smoothly. It's okay. I wasn't completely hamstrung by the 4 gigs of RAM. So if you're somebody who's looking for something, don't need to do a whole heck of a lot. Not a huge power user, not a big gamer, but you want to do the basics and you want to do them well. You don't want to spend a ton of money. This is certainly one that you look at. But we're going to get back with the full review as well. Let me know in the comment section what you want to know about it below. LongIslandWatch.com. Mark's got some exciting stuff coming up. I can't even know. I asked him. I said, I'd swear on a cat. I'd swear on whatever. Swear me to secrecy. Tell me. Give me some hints. Nothing. I got nothing. I got some sizes, which I can't reveal. But we're going to have some new stuff coming up at the channel shortly. Link for that will be in the description. If you've made it this far, like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Until next time, have that Steve-licious day.